This is week 1 of RELS357, The End of the World, and I'm Greg Cootsona. The central topic of this course has a particular interest for me. I was driving across country with my wife on the way to Princeton, New Jersey to start a master's degree in religion and theology. And on the way, we stopped at a relative's house, and they took us to church in McPherson, Kansas. The year was 1988, and as we went into the church sanctuary, we were handed this brochure, 88 Reasons Why the Rapture Will Happen in 1988. In fact, the sermon was on that topic as well. I don't think I need to say that the rapture did not happen that year, nor did the end of the world happen. But I realized then something that has stuck with me for over 3 decades, that end times apocalyptic thinking is a central part of our American culture, and that's why this course is particularly important for us. So let's just talk about the course for a minute. I want to go through a few key things today, and then we'll keep doing this as the weeks go by. The course is this: is the world coming to an end? Will the end be brought about by a divine plan, a cosmic structure embedded in the universe, or by human action? Will God rain down fiery destruction on a sinful world, or will we ourselves destroy ourselves through the misuse of science and technology? Many religious narratives depict cosmic struggles between good and evil, or they warn that the world will end if humankind doesn't change its ways. In this class, we'll examine apocalyptic and millennial themes in Judaism and Christianity, in new religious movements, as well as catastrophic thought in non-religious or secular thought. We will analyze how religious apocalypticism shapes and is shaped by larger cultural debates about the possibility of global annihilation. And we will focus specifically on cultural debates in the U.S. over nuclear weapons, climate change, and transhumanism. How are these debates influenced by pre-existing religious narratives? To what extent do millennial religious narratives shape our cultural explorations of the dangers posed by science and technology? And we will look, as we seek to answer these questions, we look specifically at how texts and videos produced by popular culture demonstrate the ways in which religious and secular views actually frame debates about our future. This particular presentation, some key terms. From When Time Shall Be No More, prophecy belief in modern American culture. The first thing we want to look at is the idea of an apocalypse. An apocalypse is a type of literature. And you might know the book in the Bible, in the New Testament, called the Book of Revelation. That can also be called the Apocalypse. That's the Greek word for revelation. And so apocalypse is a type of literature in Jewish and Christian texts. Some of those are in what we know as the Hebrew Bible and the New Testament. So Paul Boyer writes this on page 23. What then is an apocalypse? The word itself is Greek, meaning an unveiling of that which is hidden. So apocalypse, apa, means to pull up. It's a It's a preposition, and then the idea of unveiling from that, to open up, as it were. An unveiling of that which is hidden. The biblical scholar John Collins uses this definition, which is a little complicated, so hang with me or look at the screen to get it. A genre of revelatory literature with a narrative framework. So it reveals something and it has a narrative framework, in which revelation is mediated by an otherworldly being to a human recipient. So like an angel describes it, or other kinds of otherworldly beings. And remember that literature in this period was often first communicated orally, or that most people would have heard it orally. So anyway, worth saying. So this kind of literature where this revelation is mediated by an otherworldly being to a human recipient, disclosing a transcendent reality which is both temporal, in that it envisions an eschatological salvation, something for the future, and spatial as it involves another supernatural world. So usually apocalypses talk about a fight between good and evil that's happening in the heavens, as it were, and that there's a revelation, an unveiling of what that is. All right, so a couple other terms, 3 other terms that are related. These are much simpler definitions that I've adapted from online resources. Eschatological is a type of theological teachings concerned with death, judgment, and the final destiny of the world and of humankind. That's an adjective. It comes from a Greek word eschatos, which means the end. So eschatological are these teachings about the end of time. And eschatology is a noun, which is a particular teaching about these things. Millenarianism is a movement that emphasizes teaching about or belief in a future, an often imminent future of 1,000 years. That's 1,000 years of blessedness beginning with or fulfilled in the second coming of Christ. So a millennium, from which this derives, is a term for 1,000 years. And then there's the rapture. This comes from a biblical text, the first book of the Thessalonians, first letter to the Thessalonians in the New Testament, chapter 4, verse 17. That's what 1 Thessalonians 4:17 means. It is the transporting of believers to heaven at the second coming of Christ. So there's lots of things we could be looking at in this class. We're going to look primarily at 3. In the first half of the class, we'll look a lot at Christian apocalyptic thought in the U.S., the history, and where it is more or less in the present. The book that we're using was written about 20 years ago or 25 years ago, so some of the material will have to update a bit, but it's really critical for understanding what this means in our country. And then we'll look at global climate change and the Anthropocene, the idea that there's a new climate, a new era in geology that is defined by the anthropos, or human beings. And then this is a particular interest of mine because my specialization is religion, technology, and science. Transhumanism, artificial intelligence, or AI, and the singularity. That'll be the third part. So there are a lot of other ways we could go, and I'm sorry to say we will not have any zombie apocalypses, but if maybe in your final paper you want to write about that, that might be something for you to do. So I think this will be an exciting class, and I look forward to being on the journey of finding out what the end of the world will be, at least as it's presented by these various sources. So being on that journey with you should be really fun.